Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Fitness Education Series produced by the Australian Fitness Academy. It's like progressive overload for your brain. I'm your host, Tom Rock, and today's episode, I want to touch on a study that came out towards the end of last year. It's called Optimizing Resistance Training Outcomes, and it compares in-person supervision, online coaching, and self-guided approaches. And they sort of did a randomized control trial. So what they sort of looked to compare was the results of a training program based on if a client did it under supervision, so like a personal trainer was supervising them. If they had a app that was guiding, which is more and more common these days, is someone's following a program on an app, and they had a self-directed one where basically they were going off a PDF. So just classic, old school, print off a PDF program and let the trainer or the client follow it. So really cool study. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check it out. So yeah, definitely jump in and have a look. But we'll just run through it. I think it's interesting to read these studies and see what they do. So basically, they had these people. I think it was a 8-week program. 10 weeks, and they sort of had two different periods. So they did weeks 1 to 4, then a sort of a deload, weeks 5 to 10. With slightly more strength-orientated training in that. But they looked at body composition, so muscle mass, fat-free mass, and overall body mass. They looked at muscular strength or changes in muscular strength, and they also looked at subject well-being a little bit as well, which we won't discuss too much because the results sort of didn't show a lot in that respect. But they basically did some a 1 RM back squat and a 1 RM bench press to look at strength training. And then they did a BIA or for their body comp analysis, which was done on a scale. So it was just a general scale with bioelectrical impedance on the feet to measure changes in body composition throughout this training period. So the studies, I don't mind looking at studies. It's quite interesting, especially even to see the programs that they run as well. So they did a full body program 3 times a week. And each session was different. So I'm not going to outline each session because they did session 1, 2, and 3 for the first weeks 1 to 6. And then they changed the exercise selection for weeks 7 to 10, which was more of a strength focus, and did again three different full body sessions throughout the week. For the sets and reps, as I said, weeks 1 to 3 were generally 3 by 12, 4 to 6, 3 by 8, 7 to 9, 4 by 5, and the same for week 10. So they sort of progressed through a range of rep ranges and focuses, I guess you could say, starting with the hypertrophy, finishing with a little bit more strength orientation, which is a sort of a classic, I guess, periodized program, or how it can stack up over 10 weeks, depending on a client's goal, I guess. So each participant did the same program, same instructions, but some were supervised, some went off an app which had video content as well, so they could see exercise demonstrations on the app. The others were a PDF that basically gave them a PDF of the program and then written instructions on exercises, sets, reps, and rests and all that sort of stuff. So 3 different modes, I guess, to complete the exact same training program. And yeah, it was so very interesting today that highlights the benefits of supervised training. So basically what they sort of found that there was significant changes for all groups, no matter if it was supervised, the app, or the PDF. They all had positive results, but they did find that the supervised training was more effective. So, for example, a 1 RM squat showed significant pre and post changes, and the subgroup, so that's the supervised group, also demonstrated significantly greater increases than the app group and the PDF group. So that was an interesting concept, which is very cool. Sort of showed that, again, potentially benefits of a supervised program rather than just following an app or a piece of paper potentially. And they also found some significant differences in the muscle mass and fat-free mass measurements from the supervised training group versus the app group and the PDF group. They were a little bit weird in there, and they sort of lead into discussion and they talk about that BIA might not be the most accurate, and it can generally be affected by hydration levels, any sort of previous exercise, time of day, that sort of thing. So potentially using something like a DEXA was something they mentioned maybe could improve the legitimacy of those results. But still very interesting to see that it did highlight potential advantages or outcomes of a program that is followed or done in a supervised capacity. The other interesting thing they sort of discuss, and it's good to sort of sometimes read the discussion, not just the abstract and the outcomes and the conclusions, but the discussion goes through a lot of different aspects of it. And it delves a little bit into the results a little bit deeper. So we saw some good advantages of supervised training for increases in back squat strength. We didn't see that translate to the bench press. So bench presses didn't show any significant difference between groups. And what they sort of discuss is that maybe the more complex the exercise, the more advantage you potentially have from supervision to help give feedback, make sure coaching cues are there, manage the intensity for those potentially more challenging or complex exercises. So, and that's a good, potentially there's lots of different models for training. You might not even have to use all of one method. So you could design your business or however you run sessions around, I'm going to supervise closely these complex lifts like a back squat, maybe a deadlift, overhead press or bench press may be complex for beginner clients too. So supervision for beginner clients may be really, really beneficial. If a client's more advanced, intermediate to advanced, potentially on some more simple exercises, could be single joint or maybe accessory movements like RDLs, it could be lateral raises, bicep curls, triceps, probably maybe not need the direct supervision, and just following a program off an app, if they're familiar with the exercise, maybe gets good results as well. Again, you have to look at different studies and potentially new studies to sort of compare that, but the differences might be hard to spot in a study. But it gives you food for thought about how to get the most benefit or the most improvements for your clients and get them the best results. And if supervising them for their complex lift is important, potentially you can look at that. And there's different levels of supervision. So if your clients, you might have groups of 4 or 5 or 6 that are all running the same program, and you can sort of supervise when you need to. But then later on in the program, when they're doing their finishing exercises or the less complex ones, potentially that they don't need to be supervised as readily, or there's certain days per week where they might need more supervision. So a very, very interesting study, I think, that highlights the benefits of having a trainer. And if you're if you're out there and you're currently training, not seeing results, it's a sign that potentially having a trainer supervise your sessions, write your program, and then supervise you through it will definitely assist you or may improve your ability to see results based on their monitoring intensity, adherence, all that sort of stuff can improve under supervision. But it also highlights that, I think there's different models that run these days, and it's not uncommon for clients to come back and say they've sort of been doing their own training, but they're not seeing as good results as they want, or not seeing any results, and they come to you for guidance based on that they're not seeing results from what they're currently doing. So huge benefits, I think, to having supervised training, and that place for personal training is well and truly there. And even with this day and age with apps and programs and online programs, it looks like from this study that nothing is really going to replace that one-on-one or that direct supervision and coaching of exercises and intensity. So it's always going to be an advantage, and using that knowledge to your advantage is important when designing sessions and understanding how to get the best out of clients. If you leave them to their own devices too much, they may not see as good results as someone who is with you 3 times a week or has direct supervision. But very, very cool study. Definitely check it out. Hope you got a bit out of my thoughts on that one. If you do have any questions on this topic, or any topics you'd like me to cover, shoot an email to tom@afa.com.au, and happy to cover anything you guys would like to chat about. Other than that, guys, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you all soon.